Let me thank you all again, once again, for the great privilege of working for the greatest group of doctors in the world. It's always an inspiration to be here with you. I hope you all got one of your bumper stickers to Stop Obamacare, one of our most popular initiatives. I have got 2 on my pickup truck, and 1 on my car, and 1 on my office door, and I carry some spares with me to give away to other people who are envious and want one for themselves. That is our objective, to stop Obamacare. That means to repeal it, of course, to defund it, to overturn it in the Supreme Court. We filed 2 amicus briefs in rapid succession recently on the issue of severability and on the issue of Medicaid expansion. I think Dr. Andy has a couple of copies of the amicus briefs that he might share with you. We also need to block it at the state level, and this is possible. The states can refuse to set up an Obamacare exchange, and the feds are threatening, well, if you don't do it, we're going to do it our way, and you won't like that. But it turns out the feds don't have the authority to do that for several reasons. And the other thing is to make it irrelevant, which I'll get into a little bit later. Now, some of even our friends, our Republican friends, are talking about repeal and replace. And this makes me really nervous because they're talking about replacing one unconstitutional federal piece of legislation with another one that accepts a lot of the same flawed premises and is just as unconstitutional. And what we mean by replace is something a little bit different from that. If you listen to what Ralph Weber said today, actually, a lot of people would be better off without the health plans that are coming about and paying the fine. For one thing, once they start paying the Cadillac tax on a Yugo, that will go into effect, I think, in 1018 for this very expensive health plan, which is the opposite of true insurance. That what we need to replace is this flawed third-party payment model, in which all of the money goes through the insurance companies that have every incentive for medical costs to be as high as possible because they get a better share of it that way. We need to replace it with a direct pay model or a charity model. I mean, somebody has to pay for the medical care, and a lot of us gain a lot of satisfaction in giving it to people who truly can't afford to pay for it. All the bit about cover the uninsured that the AMA is shouting and teaching to the medical students is just wrong. What patients need is not coverage, especially by the managed care companies that use Medicaid for a cash cow. What they need is care. And there's just very little care in what these people are calling health care. All is one word. We need to be allowed to have the freedom to care for our patients. One friend of mine who is running for Congress said that in a way we're framing this issue wrong if we're looking at a conflict between the people who are paying, like the taxpayers, and the people who are dependent on government programs, and somehow looking at those people as our enemies and as being somehow preferred when this system comes crashing down, which it is going to have to do, what are the people who are dependent on the government going to do when these government checks start to bounce? The people who are the supposed beneficiaries of the system are in even worse shape than the rest of us are. And what we need to do is we need to look out for each other. We need to take care of each other. I think that I don't have too much hope in the presidential race because I don't see anybody telling the truth, except for Ron Paul, who is a lifetime member of AAPS, about the ugly little fact that if every dollar the government spends, it has to borrow 40% of it. And what are we going to do when the Chinese and the Saudis and the other people stop lending us money because they figure out they're not going to get it back? Well, what are we going to do about medical care? We know that it costs too much. And one of the reasons we know it costs too much is because you really can provide it for a whole lot less. And one of our members of whom I'm most proud, Dr. Keith Smith, who was an anesthesiologist in Oklahoma City, has proved this by doing it. by taking the totally revolutionary action of posting prices on the internet. Package prices, including the facility fee, the surgeon's fees, and the anesthesiologist. He's been making the rounds in Washington, D.C., and you can see some of his talks on our website explaining about this. Some of his patients are coming back for a second visit saying, my gosh, I can't believe it. What I paid you is 10%, 1/10 of what the hospitals were going to charge me for the same procedure. And you provide excellent service, everybody's happy there, and you're making money. Where exactly is the rest of the 80 or 90% of the medical dollar going? Not going to people who take actual care of any patients. We have a lot of ways to help bring about the type of transformation that we heard talking about today. I know a lot of physicians are very scared about taking the first little steps, or can they make it, and will all their patients leave them, and all of these things. And one of the ways we started on our own website is to post the lists of doctors who are friendly to cash-paying patients. How many of you are on the list on our website? Well, you ought to go there. You don't have to completely opt out. All you have to do is say, you would like to see some patients who pay cash. I haven't yet found a doctor who is unable to figure out how to accept cash from a patient who wants to take it. The other thing is MediBid, and there's a special deal that's been offered to our members for $4.99 a month. You can sign up for the basic MediBid plan. Go to medibid.com. It's a way for patients to find you and for you to find patients. There are a lot of patients out there looking for a doctor who would like to take care of them and for a stated, agreed upon package price. And it also makes patients aware of some innovative procedures that they may not even know about. So look into signing up for medibid.com. There is a new thing that I just learned about. I talked today with Daniel Palistrant, who is the founder of Sermo, and he has a new idea called Pareto, which is P-A-R with a figure 8 and then a little o.com, and this is going to be a way of referring doctor to doctor, and everybody gets to participate free. There will be fees if you want to put on there what type of patients you want, including cash-paying patients. It would be a way for you to try just a little bit, putting your toe in the water before you go all out for this. We'll see how this works, but I've been really impressed that Dr. Palistrant has publicized something that Andy Schlafly did a long time ago, which was to expose the AMA's secret contract with HCFA that gives them this monopoly on these CPT codes. And we're very grateful that Dr. Palistrant has at least made this a lot more widely known. And I think that it really is up to us to save medicine. We can't rely on mercenaries to do it. We can't rely on lawyers. We can't rely on the Supreme Court. We can't rely on Congress, certainly. When we're talking about replace, I think the most important replacement is Congress. As John Adams said in 1776, one of my favorite lines is, we have some definitions. 1 useless man is called a disgrace. 2 useless men are called a law firm. And I hasten to remind you that Andrew Schlafly is in solo practice. And that 3 or more are called a Congress. By God, I've had enough of this Congress. And it's up to us to start running people for Congress. And that brings me to our next speaker. As Dr. Iverson has pointed out, that there are only 19 physicians in Congress, and we need a whole lot more. But of those 19, 40% of them are members of AAPS. So we have a disproportionate influence there. We're hoping that Wayne Iverson, our director, will be another one. We also have 2 other members of AAPS who are running for this Congress, and I just found out Annette Tahiro, the coordinator of our Las Vegas chapter, is running for the state Senate in Nevada. And I hope a lot of you will follow their example and get on with the task of taking America back for our physicians and for our patients and for all of our fellow citizens. Thank you.